Let's Talk Connection Podcast Network fans. Welcome inside the Wrestling War Zone, a Monday Night Wars podcast, retrospective series of North Talk Connection, the most inclusive podcast network across the internet today. Joining me as ever is my buddy Chad. Recently celebrated a big birthday. How you doing, buddy? Happy birthday.
Number 37. So getting up there.
Let's see if we equate it to WrestleManias. 37 was pretty good. That was Tampa. First back from COVID. It's a strong year. I'm gonna say that. I don't use the Chinese calendar or the Chinese New Year's calendar or the Gregorian calendar. I use the WrestleMania calendar to dictate how my years are gonna go.
That was where Reigns, Edge, and Bryan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Lashley and Drew? No, Lashley. Was it Drew?
Know.
Might have been. Anyway.
I got one match. So that's about all you.
Well, no, that has the really good Bianca Sasha match with the hair.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It had Bray in the box as well. That's that one.
Of course.
There you go. All right. So welcome into Wrestling War Zone. Again, we're simulcast video and audio videos on our YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, leave a comment there. And of course, audio on any podcast app, searching North to South Connection. On this podcast here, we're going through the history of the Monday Night Wars. We started with back in September 1995, and we are finally in the promised land of 1997. It took us a long march through the year of 96 to get here, but we are finally in agreement that we are hitting the stretch where every show is going to matter going forward for a while. Raw's finally picked up. WCW is rolling on all cylinders. And tonight we are talking solely WCW because we're talking Clash of the Champions from January 1997, Chad. This is kind of, well, first I should say it's the next to last Clash ever, right? Because they do one more in August and then we're done. I think this is one of the more forgotten clashes. Like, I think it's not one you jumps to your mind about any big moments or anything that happens on it that stands out. Not to say it wasn't a solid show. I don't think it's one you immediately think of when you're thinking of like the legendary clashes.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any memory of this show whatsoever. When I rewatched it, and we'll get to it. Like, it's a solid watch, but I mean, I think it feels a little lame duck too. Like, them having it the Tuesday before a pay-per-view on Saturday is kind of weird. There's no Hogan on the show, which it seems like they're already kind of counting his appearances. So we're January 20th, 21st or whatever, and mark it down. They're already kind of making sure he's not blowing through all his appearances. So it's an interesting show.
It's tough because I feel like they really wanted to do that big week. It's like, oh, we're in Chicago, we're at the, we get Clash in Milwaukee, then we get the pay-per-view, like we're there for the TV, whatever the hell was going on. It was like they would try to really make it like a big week. But to your point, I think it ends up hurting a little bit. We talked about its effects on Nitro, right? We feel like they held back a lot on Nitro. Talked about in our last episode, and how as a result of having this Clash next night, they held back on some stuff or used it to promote the Clash. And now we get a pay-per-view in 4 days, a rare Saturday night pay-per-view, and it's like, it feels again like we're a little bit in a holding. I think they would have been better served to do this either a couple of weeks ago or put this between Sold Out and Super Brawl, maybe.
Yeah, I guess they're at the mercy of TBS, but if they would have cobbled together the best aspects of like the in-ring action on this show, with some of the bigger moments like the Sting, Randy Savage stuff. I mean, we can just mention that. There's nothing on that.
Not at all. Like, nowhere to be found.
One shows up
the next night. It's not like it's a week late. Like the next night, they're not there at all. Like that's
a
big
crazy
angle. Yeah.
So they probably could have had like one great show if you take the best of both of these shows, but it does dilute it that they had 4 hours of programming in these 2 nights.
I mean, and not to get too ahead of ourselves either, but Sting and Savage, I know Savage isn't Sold Out. I don't remember if Sting is, but like they don't do much if they aren't. So it's almost like
either is, but
I don't know why they did it the week they did. Like maybe they should have done that as the fallout from Sold Out. Savage shows up. I get maybe they wanted to do it in Chicago, make it a big deal the night after the Rumble, probably trying to capture some of that. But it feels like they did it and then they waited a week to do anything else on it anyway when they had 2 other major shows.
Right. So. All right. Well, you ready to dive in to the show proper?
Let's dig into Milwaukee.
We're at the Mecca. Pretty historic wrestling building overall. Very generic kind of opening. Just giving us the rundown of the matches.
Words right off my page, Chad. Generic opening video.
Yep. So nothing real super there. Did notice in the graphics package of the opening, Ultimo's still Ultimate Dragon, so they hadn't quite figured that out. I know during the opening matchup, there's some interchangeable. Bobby calls him Ultimate Dragon a couple times. So it is Dusty, Tony, and Bobby in the booth for us tonight.
Our
Also,
best. That's our best team. I mean, I like Larry a lot, but this is our premier trio right here.
yep. Dusty pandering to the Milwaukee crowd. This is Tuesday before the Super Bowl. Um, it's crazy that Sold Out was the night before the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to talk about that, but it's weird. But Dusty has on a Packers colors coat, which I thought
Yes.
looked pretty cool. I don't think it was like an official Packers coat, but it was that green and gold. So it looked good. And we pretty much head right into our opener, which
Well,
is
Dusty does have one weird line. He goes, "We get to watch a real live domestic dispute on national TV tonight."
oh
So like, it just it feels I don't know. I know it's a different time, but like he's basically excited to watch like a marital dispute play out in a war.
yeah,
Like just say we get to watch a real live heated brawl. Like don't say a just domestic. Oh, we actually get to see one. Like then it's not behind closed doors. We get to see the wife and the husband fight, baby. It's like
yeah,
it was weird.
he goes back to that well a lot
Yeah,
on this show. Oh,
but we also hype. The big hype is that the Steiners, the first time in a while, are going to be
coming
in
back as
action
the team.
together with
Yes,
Scott being back. So
yes.
that's kind of the main selling point, honestly. Like besides Benoit Sullivan of this show is the Steiners in action for the first time since I think was it like September was the last time. I know they were at Road Wild.
Yeah,
Then
yeah,
they kind of did that
September,
back to back with
October.
Sting and all that stuff. But
Mm-hmm. So our opener, it's a rematch of Starcade and the night before, which we talked about how stupid that was. Dean Malenko versus Ultimo Dragon. Mike Tenay joins us on commentary. Tony lets us know that Malenko's made the Cruiserweight Championship his goal. Some basic mat wrestling to start. Tony automatically mentions the Super Bowl. And then they go right to break, like 2 minutes into the match. Get the NWO hotline ad, $1.59 a minute there. Back from break, Malenko's kind of working him over in the corner. Bobby says Dragon's been hanging around with Dennis Rodman because all he's doing is kicking the man. So this must have been right after Rodman kicked that photographer or whatever right in the nuts at courtside. Ultimo is able to take over. Malenko bells the outside after a stiff kick. And then he starts kind of going after the legs of Ultimo. So Malenko really takes over, and this is a match to me really of two halves. So the first half is what happens right here with the mat wrestling leading up to Malenko gaining the advantage, working over the legs of Ultimo. He gets the half crab hooked in. The crowd's kind of behind Malenko. Um, Dean takes Ultimo to the outside, grabs his leg and puts that over the railing. That looked good. And then a cool figure four happens where Ultimo actually grabs the leg of Malenko too, so he's not able to lock it in all the way. So some good counter wrestling. I enjoyed that. And then we kind of flip the switch. We go right to the ending segment. So Dragon hits a spin wheel kick. He goes to the top. It gets caught. Superplex gets a huge pop from the crowd. Bobby says you're seeing a dragonfly. So making a nice joke there. And then he says, Dusty, what do you call 40 millionaires watching the Super Bowl? The Dallas Cowboys, which was a great that was a great dig at Dusty there.
he's been all over Dusty at the Cowboys
Oh
stuff
yeah,
lately. It's just been great. Yeah.
kills him with the cowboy jabs. So Malenko goes for the powerbomb, gets reversed into the Rana. Springboard drop kick from Dragon. Both are on the outside. Dragon's able to hit the Ase moonsault. A brainbuster moonsault back on the inside gets a near fall for Dragon. The crowd gets distracted here, and I thought somebody, like a run in or something was coming down the aisle. But what I think happened is somebody just like tripped and fell because you can kind of see like somebody on the floor in the aisleway and security's like over them. So I don't know what happened there, but that was humorous.
Yep.
Frankensteiner from Ultimo. Dean goes for the clover leaf, but Ultimo rolls him up for a 2 count. Butterfly powerbomb. Sonny Ono gets on the apron. Dean forearms him and then locks on the clover leaf and gets the tap out victory. So we have a new cruiserweight champion here. So I mentioned, like, I think this is a match of two halves, and both halves are good. I just didn't think there was much coherent between the two halves.
Right.
This was a difficult match for me to rank because I enjoyed everything about the match, but as somebody that I know I can be pretty critical of selling and consistency with selling, and this really was a case of the first half of the match, the legs worked on a good bit, and then the second half of the match, it's forgotten completely. Like at one point, Ultimo springboards off and lands on the floor with both his legs, and he doesn't even limp or nothing. He's hitting Nase, moonsaults, everything. So it's definitely forgotten. It was exciting. So I was very conflicted with a rating here. This is also a match that has a wild Dave Meltzer rating. He gave this 4.5 stars, which I think is
Wow.
one of the wildest ones from the era as far as overrating.
That's
Um,
big.
I, yeah, I landed at 3.5. Like I think it's really good, and I think if we'd have had a little more consistent selling from Ultimo, this could have been a great match in my mind. Because and he was doing so many other little touches, like the
Right.
blocking of the figure four. It's like they did so many things right. It's just you can't have 4 to 5 minutes committed of a 15-minute match to really working over this leg and it to be just completely forgotten, in my opinion. So a really good opener, but one that I get 3.5 to.
I thought today was pretty good. He says Dean has something to prove. He's 0-2 in title matches with Dragon. He's won other stuff. So that was like a good selling point for this too. He gets into the J Crown situation as well.
Yeah.
I like the delayed suplex by Dean. That looked good. We could talk about Ray. He's been out with a knee injury, but he'll be back in a few weeks. The superplex by Dean got a big pop, and that was, I'm always say I'm a big mark for a nice superplex, and this was a really good one. See, Moonsault was good. Mark Curtis, a little lenient on that count out. Dean gets in a little late on the 10, but he lets it slide. Dragon is always crisp and everything, though. The acai moonsault, the moonsault press, the top rope Rana, like everything is just really always on point. I like the finish, too, with knocking down Sonny and then goes to the cloverleaf and gets the clean tap, which I thought was a really cool finish. First 3-time Cruiserweight champion. Just a really hot opener. Like, this is kind of what we wanted from Nitro, I thought, the night before, right? We talked
Mhm.
about it. Malenko seemed locked in and on fire. Like he came in with something to prove. I don't know if he was aggravated with the night before or not, but he clearly came in trying to prove a point. I thought a Starcade, we were down on this. Like it didn't quite hit. It was solid. The TV match on Nitro, the constraints really killed it. I thought this had a great finish. And they had less time here as well, which they didn't have to play with too. So I thought it was a great finish. The crowd was rabid at the end, and I think it was a cool moment, a really good way to start the Clash off. So I'm a little bit higher than you, went 3 3/4. But I liked it a lot, and definitely the best of their series that we've seen so far. 4.5 is pretty wild, like you said,
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
melts.
So you had this higher than Starcade
Let me check
or
back real
same
quick.
rating?
Arcade.
Because I definitely think I like Starcade a little better.
I have Arcade. It's 4. Oh, 4. Okay, no, I had this higher.
Okay, yeah, I had Starcade at 4
Yeah.
too, so we were saying, yeah. No, I mean, I thought this was a good match.
I'm sorry, I misread my note. I thought I wrote it didn't hit at Starcade. What I meant was this didn't hit the Starcade level,
the
but
ceiling,
because they had less time and the
yeah,
TV stuff, but they could have.
right,
They almost got
right,
there.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to say.
yeah. You could have put. I mean, they definitely again, like we'll talk about it. Like they could have put this on Nitro,
Mm-hmm.
like the time wise, and it would have been
Yeah.
really good. But it just was what it was. All right, we come back from break and right into our next match.
Well, did you get the promotional considerations, the sponsors?
I didn't write down
All
the
right, here we
sponsor.
go.
I
It
know
was
Babylon was one, but
nope, not for this. The promotional consideration is Slim Jim, of course. Chef Boyardee, which I think sponsored every wrestling show in the 90s. And D3, Mighty Ducks 3 on VHS. So I don't know. Where do you stand on 3? We usually rank the American Pies, but let's rank the Mighty Ducks.
The little promo said they're calling it the best Mighty Ducks yet, which I vehemently disagree with. I mean, I'll say as a kid, I was a D2 guy.
Yeah.
But you know, I've come around. I think I had a crush on the Iceland coach that
I thought you were gonna say Julie the Cat Gaffney.
No, I mean she was too, but the coach that Bombay was hitting on,
yes.
I was also infatuated with. So that
a little Finch, bringing it back to American Pie, likes the ladies.
Yes. What is it? Greenland is full of ice, and Iceland is very nice. That's always stuck out in my head. But yeah, I mean the first one's the best. Second one I still think's
close.
Good, solid, like close. Movie. You know, the second one to me fits right in with like that little big league rookie of the year. You know, that type of ilk. Blank Check, the creepiest movie you'll ever watch.
The lady kissing the kid in the mouth is like the worst. That never gets talked about nearly enough. Is like the creepiest 90s movie.
An absolute insane storyline where FBI agent coerces a 10-year-old kid to kiss in the mouth to reveal his secrets. But yes,
yeah, it was messed up. I saw like that meme that always goes around like a couple times a year about how Charlie is like the worst person in D3. Like he wants this college team to be named after like his little league ice team, like gets on Gordon's ass for like getting a real paying job and instead of coaching his hockey team. Like it was like, it's like it's like the old Grandpa Joe one that goes around, right? Like his lazy ass watched everyone work until it was time to go to the candy shop and they get up. It's like that with Charlie, like all these awful things he does.
I do remember on D3, like as a 10-year-old, I thought the Ducks suck. Like where they wrote that on the locker room or whatever. I thought that was very edgy. I was like, ooh, this is big time trash talk there.
In a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely not the best of the series. Chef Boyardee, that's a wild commercial too, because the guy's like eating it in the jungle, which I don't quite get that. Like they make it it's almost like it has like the primate sound, like
right.
It's like what is this? Isn't survival
primal
food.
Urge to eat.
Yeah, like right, if you're going camping, you're bringing Chef Boyardee. Like I didn't understand that either. But
I don't think I've ever eaten Chef Boyardee.
Oh yeah, that was a big thing for me as a kid, like that and SpaghettiOs. That was my Italian though, so
But when you have like my grandmother making homemade pasta in the basement, it's like it's hard to like justify buying Chef Boyardee.
It was gourmet. We didn't have the Olive Garden at that point, but I don't think that's a thing now. I mean, obviously, like it's still out, but like my kids have never ate Chef Boyardee, so that went by the wayside. All right, was that it? Those three?
That's the three big ones.
Okay, got you. So we come back. 2 jobber entrances. Bell rings. It's Mike Enos versus Scotty Riggs. Riggs slugs away. Enos doesn't even have his jacket off. Enos takes a wild spill to the outside. Dusty calls Buff Bagwell Little Buffy when they're talking about the sold out match between Scotty Riggs and Buff Bagwell. Riggs starts pounding on Enos on the outside, but gets sent to the ring apron. Clothesline from the apron to the floor for Big Mike, and belly to back suplex inside, and then just as abrupt a finish as you can possibly get, where Riggs literally ducks the clothesline, hits a flying forearm, and just pins him. So this was all just like enhancement for Riggs leading into the sold out match. Was what it was. I want to start in a corner.
Yeah, it's tough because it's tough to say, we're going to give Riggs a showcase on the Clash, which when you think of like the old Clashes, I mean, I guess they had these types of matches, right? I guess they just got to seem bigger in retrospect, but they would have little showcases like this too. It just feels like Riggs is just kind of going nowhere guy, even though he's really just exists right now for Bagwell to get a first step as a win as a heel and put the males to bed. Dusty calling him Little Buffy Bagwell made me laugh, even though it completely emasculates this character they're trying to get over it out of the gate. We get a lot of talk about Bischoff and Savage here. And basically says, like, is the NWO going to make things really hard for us on the pay-per-view? Like, the team WCW, like, are they going to be put in real tough positions on this pay-per-view? This felt like a Nitro match all the way. Riggs is ready for Buffy. 1.5 for me.
NWO sold out T-shirt, which we've seen
20 plus 5. And did you see the PO box?
No.
Warwick, Rhode Island.
Warwick, Rhode Island.
Yes.
I did see that.
Buy the shirt.
I did know of that.
Maybe you wonder if, like, because Warwick was like a big, like, you would see that a lot on different merchandise and stuff. And like, I know Hasbro is obviously in Rhode Island, so like the Hasbro WWF figures, like a lot of times, like the catalogs and different stuff would say Hasbro because they had their big toy vault and everything. The shirt one interested me because I'm like, that wouldn't be like a toy thing. So I was wondering like where that started, like why they were using them, that of all places, like an Atlanta-based company was using Rhode Island for like.
Yeah, I wonder
printing.
if they had like they must have just had like a distribution center or something there.
Yeah, maybe
on the pipeline. So it's a WCW show around this time, so we got to get our big 4 horsemen interview. No Flair tonight. Gene mentions that they had a summit meeting this morning that he kind of eavesdropped in. Then Benoit takes over. He says the Horsemen will dominate in 1997. And then we get a lot on Kevin Sullivan. And again, like, it's tough knowing what happens. This I thought was very unfortunate with the way Benoit phrases a lot of stuff here on this promo. So he says, Sullivan, you're looking into your destiny. I can take away whatever one of yours anytime I please. We want Flair chant from the crowd. Benoit says it's irrelevant that he made it personal. He's beating Sullivan mentally, physically, and spiritually. When he doesn't get what he wants, he cripples. He says Sullivan has, or no, he actually says, I have a very
fragile mind.
It will take away everything you have. I was like, good Lord. The last thing I will take away from you will be your career. So a very personal, like focused promo from Benoit on to Sullivan and the feud overall. Then Arn chimes in and says the fact is, Sullivan, this man reached in and ripped out your heart out of your chest. Tonight, you will see how the Horsemen operate. Mongo chimes in. He calls them a bunch of Lindbergher losers. He says, there's a famous guy around here said in Wisconsin, winning ain't everything, it's the only thing. He cuts a promo on Sullivan too, says tonight is Horseman time, baby. And so basically this is a promo that is supposed to show the Horsemen more united, right?
Yeah, they even said they had the summit at a Chicago restaurant and they're going to dominate. They're back together.
Yeah. So Arn and Benoit and Woman walk away. Deborah grabs the mic right at the end, says she has something to say. She is having a great time. Well, Gene, I don't mean to be catty, but they do happen to call her the queen of WCW because she is very beautiful and young. Which, I mean, how young was Deborah at this point in time? She wasn't that young, was she?
I don't know. I'm going to say, what's your guess? I'm going to look it up.
I'm going to guess she was in her 30s.
Yeah, I was going to say like 34. Let's see. Yeah. She was born in 1960. So she was 30, almost 37.
Yeah, 37. So, I mean, I wouldn't say young, right? But she says, woman's the queen of Sheba because she's been dead for 2,000 years and looks it. So the Horsemen's united, but Deborah's still getting her shots in on.
Well, I kind of like the approach, though, too. So Nancy was born in 1964, so she was actually 4 years younger. So it actually works if you look at it as like a caddy, like she knows that she's old, But I like it because they're showing like they're trying to put on this united front and pull it back together, but there's still this underlying issue of Deborah still kind of maybe being hot for Jarrett. Like we've kind of had that to the side a little bit, but it seeps in. Still having her issues with Woman, right? And they've been saying like, oh, these women cause problems. Like that's the story they're trying to portray. Like the Horsemen are trying to will themselves back to success, but this one issue is still part of the problem, and it's Deborah.
All right. 6-man lucha is next. Your boy Conan, Mr. JL, and La Parca versus Chris Jericho, Chavo Guerrero Jr., and Super Colo. A lot of substitutions here. So
Mhm.
Hoovy was supposed to be in this match. They didn't say why, right? They just
He
said
just said
he's
he's
out.
away tonight. Yeah, I don't know.
So Oh, he was the one that had travel issues the night
Oh, that's right.
before.
Yeah, the night
So
before.
he
Yeah, so
must
he probably
he
still couldn't get there.
screwed up. So Jericho subs in for him, which I think Jericho subbed in for him last.
Yeah, he
last
did. Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
then
great. So Jericho has like a pretty good big match on tap for Sold Out, and he
mhm.
wasn't going to be on either show
Yeah, I don't know what the deal
unless
is
they
with
had him
that.
scheduled for other stuff, and then they stick him in here maybe. But
Mhm. And La Parca's taking Psychosis's place too. So today goes over the trios being the foundation of Lucha Libre. Says, it's not uncommon to see 3 or 4 matches on a card be trios matches. Chavo and JL start off, back elbow by JL to Chavo. Chavo comes back with a drop kick, tags in Colo. So now we have Colo versus Conan. Conan fires off some rolling arm drags. Super Colo does that neat head scissors from the top rope. Then we get La Parca versus Jericho, which I think is an interesting pairing
Mhm.
that you don't really think about because, like, it was one that I don't know how much interaction they really have with each other. And then I started thinking historically, I was like, this is probably like 2 of my top 100 wrestlers of all time, or at least guys like in the conversation. So it's a neat pairing seeing these two together. Parka like squeals. I don't know what that was. It was like banshee, I think is what they said it sounded like on the announcing.
the Banshee.
He gets a flash power slam. Jericho hits the missile drop kick from the second rope. As La Parca goes to the outside, here comes Conan, double leapfrog and clothesline from Conan and La Parca. Then they do like a doomsday corkscrew, which looked pretty wild. Chavo gives a crossbody. The action's really fast and furious here. Nice backspin kick from JL. Dusty says you need a scorecard to keep up with everything. Then we get our big dive train on the outside. Jericho hits a plancha.
Mhm.
JL hits a big crossbody from the top. Slingshot plancha from Chavo. Parka hits a full tope that was wild, lands kind of right on top of his head on the concrete. And then back inside, Super Colo hits a tope con hilo to a big pop. Back inside, head scissor takeover from JL gets 2. And then Jericho's able to hit the Super Frankensteiner off the top rope for the win. So, I mean, this was like 6 minutes, so very abbreviated. And there was a little bit of slop in there. But I thought this was a neat collection of 6 guys that I don't think we'll see much interaction with again, like these 6 together. I thought they had a lot of excitement, a lot of cool stuff that they did. A very good contrast to the trios match we saw in Royal Rumble, where those guys looked ancient. So I,
Mhm.
I went 3 stars here. I thought this was a very fun 6-minute showcase match for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, I was lower. I went 2.5. I the sloppiness kind of got to me. I think too, like I was happy to see it because they haven't done this yet, and I'm right. Whenever you think of Nitro and WCW, everyone always talks about like, oh, they showcase all the cruiserweights, right? They open the show with the cruiserweights and get the. We haven't
Mhm.
seen that yet, really. I'm curious when it starts to really become a thing. Is it not for a while, or is it not at all? Is it a false
I
memory?
think it's over. I've always been a proponent that was over, like inflated.
Yeah.
People just
So we'll
over
see it. We'll
exaggerated.
track it. I mean, so this is something we haven't seen a lot of. Um, I think the one problem with Jericho being in here is he has been pushed above these guys. So to
Mm,
almost, and I guess Conan too to an extent, but it almost like I feel like the best cruiser stuff during this era is dudes that are all on the same level, just balling out and trying to show off. And it almost like Jericho had to shine a bit more than them because he's got the big pay per view match and that like stood out a little.
right.
The finish was good with the Super Frankensteiner. I like that. The wailing was great by Parka. Dusty loves calling things banshees. I think he used to say it about women too when she would yell.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
like a banshee. Yeah,
Banshee baby. But yeah, so again, not the full high flying madness you probably want to see, but we did get the car wreck style. The crowd was into it. They weren't into Jericho at all, by the way. They were like, he got jeered when he cleaned house. Like they seemed down on him for some reason. I like the big dive flurry you mentioned, and I think it made sense to spotlight Jericho. It was just weird that the crowd wasn't into him, and again, it kind of made everyone else feel like a rung below. So I went 2.5. Like I thought it was a good little showcase for 6 minutes, but it's nothing I'd be like pimping on a message board to go check out.
I thought it was a little weird. Conan being a Dungeon of Doom member.
That too.
He's
Like,
just like,
yeah.
but I enjoyed it. Conan match, I'm higher than you on. I never thought I'd see the day.
Orale.
Yeah. We come back with another like jobber entrance start. So back from break, it's Harlem Heat versus this tag team, Joe Gomez and the Renegade.
Still around. Still
Yeah,
hanging around.
yes. Harlem Heat clubs Gomez to start. Dusty rips into Sherry tonight. He calls her top heavy. Says she's in a size 5 dress when it should be about an 8. It's like Jesus. Gomez is sent to the outside. Sherry slaps him. Leg drop from Stevie Ray. This is all Harlem Heat so far. Booker T misses a leg drop from the middle turnbuckle. Renegade gets tagged in for the first time. Does like a 1-minute House of Fire sequence, but then puts his head down, gets clotheslined, and then they immediately hit the Heat Seeker to win. So this was straight like enhancement showcase stuff too. Again, I went 1.5 stars.
Yeah, starting out for me too. It's just showing off Harlem Heat. But again, they're not even on the pay-per-view. So like what are we
No.
really using this time for? Like Nitro felt completely misused. And we're not trending much better on the Clash. Like I know you want to keep these guys on the purview, but you have 2 hours of TV on Monday. Like give Harlem Heat a match there. This Clash should have been all about the hard sell for sold out, showcase those guys. This was not needed. Like a 1 minute, 2 minute squash for Harlem Heat. This could have been used in a much different way. Tony does get the hype Super Bowl tickets. Those are on sale. So February 23rd at the Cow Palace. And Nitro's coming back to the Omni on March 3rd. He mentions that as well.
Yeah.
But just a squash. And again, and maybe it was the point. Maybe the point was to give them time to hype events, right? So maybe that was the whole point of this. But beyond that, it's just kind of, okay, Harlem Heat's really aimless right now. They're not in the mix for much. So 1.5 stars.
Yeah, I mean, even if they could have done like them versus Faces of Fear as like a, winner gets a championship shot down the line or something, whatever. Our road report with Stagger Lee is next. You got some notes on that one?
I do. Hang on a second. Yeah, he's in Clear Lake, which is just outside Des Moines, Iowa. He says it's the birthplace of John Wayne, and that Bobby's favorite musical group is Hootie and the Blow Weasels, of course. Bobby says, "Why don't you stay in Iowa with Roseanne?" So that was quite the dig back. But you ever been to Clear Lake, Iowa?
I've not. I've never been to Iowa. Period.
No, me neither.
Have you? Yeah.
No.
Does it? I don't foresee it on the scorecard anytime soon.
Maybe someday we'll go to the Slipknot Music Festival and we'll go check it out.
Like one of those. If I get the inkling to go to all 50 states, I guess I'll have to
Sometime.
Hook it in. But of all the states that I want to go to that I haven't been there, Iowa's probably towards the bottom.
It's got to be like, pretty low.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of. Sorry to our Iowa listeners.
I don't think of any. Like it may be the last. It may be 50 for me. I don't know.
I mean, like the Field of Dreams field, is that there? Or is that in Indiana? Or
No, it's not Indiana. That might be Iowa.
okay.
So maybe that's something at least, I guess.
Let's see. Field of Dreams.
I think it's Iowa.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay. All right. Well, that's something.
There we go. There's something to go. I mean, I actually like. No joke. I think it'd be cool to see like an Iowa wrestling meet.
Yeah.
Iowa University, and I would actually like to see Iowa versus Iowa State in football. But,
I had a coworker who was like super into amateur wrestling. Him and his son, and they actually used to travel to like that South Atlantic Nationals and everything, like St. Louis, and I'm sure they went to Iowa before too. So yeah, it's a good call.
All
All
right.
right, this is the reason to go. We'll go.
There we go. We came around on you, Iowa. Our next match is Masahiro Chono versus Alex Wright. Nick Patrick is your referee. Chono attacks before the bell. I thought Nick Patrick had a funny moment where the camera cuts to him and he turns his hat backwards and like it looks so proud of himself and cool. It was like
Hmm.
it was like George with
Oh
Lake
yeah,
Tony. Wasn't
yeah,
that
yeah,
his name? Yeah.
yep. The
Yeah.
bimbo
Yeah. So he thought he was like hot shit.
king shit. Yeah.
The announcers are talking about the disadvantage the WCW wrestlers will be up against. It's sold out with
Hmm.
Patrick being the referee. Wright fires Chono in the corner, insecurity and a head scissors takeover, shoulder block by Chono and a back leg kick. And then Alex Wright gets a couple of near falls, and we get like a insanely slow 2 count from Nick Patrick. Which is pretty funny. One point, Chono blatantly throws Alex Wright over the top rope with no DQ called. Nice sunset flip from the top rope, and that gets another real slow 2 count. Nick Patrick's like holding his shoulder, saying that's acting up. And then Wright just like kicks Patrick.
He's just at it. Yeah.
I love that. But he misses a dive from the top, and then a mafia kick ends it very quickly for Chono. So this was another like enhancer match, but I thought Alex Wright was able to kind of elevate it a little bit.
Why didn't
And
you tell me we had the war thing on the screen? You didn't notice?
yeah, I didn't want to. I didn't want to.
I would have changed it.
Wanted to be
I'm
nice.
sorry to anyone watching on the video that we misled.
Somebody may be screaming. Yeah, we're not talking about 2008 WWE. Hate to bring it to you.
Yeah.
But no, I thought Alex Wright elevated this match a little bit, so I went 2 1/4. I enjoyed this for what it was.
We're in line tonight mainly. I went 2 1/4 on this as well. Good point too on the commentary. They say that because Hogan, Giant, and Steiner's Outsiders are for the WCW belts, the committee may force WCW referees to be included by the NWO. So it's little things like that they're really good at right now. Like explain why we may see a WCW ref instead of Nick Patrick in the title match at Sold Out. Like give us a reason. Well, it's a WCW belt, so we're making that part of the condition. Yeah, right. I mean, I always like Wright, and I think 97 maybe his best year. I think we're gonna see some good stuff from him. And I liked him finally snapping and kicking Patrick. I thought that was good. I like that Patrick was gonna call the DQ, and it was like, oh wait, now he's hurt, so let's let Jono win. It's like an and one. Like you want to call the foul, but you wait to see if the hoop goes in, and then I'll just take the basket, right? I'm not gonna call the foul. That's what it felt like. You let him take the basket. A lot of talk about Piper and the Gaelic rambling as well through this. So we're still keeping Piper in our minds from Starrcade. All storyline here, but Wright got some offense. He looked good, and then into the finish. So yeah, I'm glad they didn't do the DQ. I actually like that Patrick let him take the win. That was better.
Me
so
too.
2 1/4.
Total package T-shirt shield by Public Enemy.
So this was $22 plus $6 shipping and handling. The NWO shirt was $20 plus $5. So what's the extra $3 for here?
We get one more shirt shield that's also 20 plus 5 coming up.
So why was the Luger shirt more?
I don't know. I've always liked this shirt though. Actually, I might be looking at this one might make an appearance in Philly if I can find a.
Well, maybe it's a supply and demand. Maybe they knew the Luger shirt was beloved more, and they figured it was worth the extra $3.
I don't know about Public Enemy as the salesman, but this is kind of interesting. With inflation around these days, like T-shirts from wrestling companies, that's one of the things that hasn't really.
No.
I mean, they're what like new shirts now or what?
I think they're probably oversupplied on a lot of those. That's why. So Homage and others always have like tons of BOGO deals and all this other stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting. That's one of the things that really hasn't. Like when you look at it, most everything else, 40-50% maybe
right.
what it was. At least. All right. Our next match, Scott Flash Norton versus Eddie Guerrero. Nick Patrick's the referee again. Patrick does a long kind of check of Eddie's boots, tights. He turns around and does it to Norton, and Eddie spanks him on the butt. And Nick Patrick immediately threatens that he's going to DQ him. I thought that was funny. They hype up the ladder match a lot.
20-foot ladder, they say.
Bobby gets a little carried away, saying he's heard rumors it's a 20-foot ladder. But pretty good hype job there. Norton starts off asserting his power by winning some face-offs, big power slam. He goes for it again, but Eddie's able to roll out and get a quick pin. Eddie then starts drop kicking the legs. So this is a big, like, Jack and the
Hmm.
Giant, Beanstalk, whatever type match, David Goliath, whatever you want to say. Uh, Eddie goes after the leg. He tries some chops. Norton shrugs that off. A nasty chop from Norton gets some big hoos from the crowd. Eddie does a drop kick that Norton basically like swats him like a fly off of. A worn arm suplex, which looked really cool. Huge power slam that even Tony calls awesome on
Hmm.
commentary. And then a nasty power bomb
That
follows
part
that
was
up.
vicious.
Yeah, real dominant performance. This may be the best Norton's look.
Hmm.
Like he looked like a monster here. Eddie's a great bumper. So this was a very cool like cat and mouse. Like just a great contrast match. Eddie catches Norton going to the top, hits a Rana forward roll from the top, gets missed by Eddie, and then we get I thought a really cool finish where DDP makes his way through the ringside. Norton hits a shoulder charge onto Eddie, but he also takes out Nick Patrick in the process. Both Eddie and Nick Patrick roll out of the ring. DDP comes in, gives the diamond cutter to Scott Norton wearing a Packers shirt. Crowd goes ballistic for that.
Hmm.
He goes through the crowd. Everybody's celebrating. And then Eddie sends Nick Patrick back into the ring. He hits a frog splash on the back of Norton and then pins him, and you can tell that Nick Patrick did not want to do the count,
Yeah, he makes
but he
him
has
force it.
to because Norton's out. So Eddie gets the win. Really fun match. Really surprised. I think this is one of these great matches that, like, if you want to talk about the greatness of Eddie Guerrero,
Hmm.
it's like you can point to this. And this was one the type of matches I think he was having too in 1995, where he was one of our like cornerstones
Yeah.
of those early Nitros, where when you think about the best matches in Eddie Guerrero's career, like this isn't the Brock Lesnar title win. This isn't, an all absolute classic that Halloween Havoc 97, whatever. But when you start padding a resume,
Hmm.
this is one of those, oh yeah, he went 2 for 5 tonight, stole a base, like
Yeah. Yeah.
made a great play in the field. It's like, oh, great game. And Eddie had it. So I had a lot of fun with this match. Norton again looked really dominant too. And then you add on the finish at the end. This is the shortest match. Ton of fun. 3 stars.
Yep. 3 for me as well. I like the pairing. It looked cool on
Sorry.
paper. Yeah, you're good. We're at WWF today. A lot of tech issues. We're gonna call them out. Coughing off mic, coughing on mic. Wrong slate. Where we are right now. Dusty calls Eddie his Texican friend out of the start right there. So I like Norton just being smug and talking shit right away as soon as he gets any offense in. They commentators too talk about how the NWO is bodyguards for Hogan, and that's why Norton was such a big addition for them because they were all out there just to protect him and the title. You mentioned that power bomb was nasty. The pop for DDP is awesome. Um, and this is where stuff like the NWO being so dominant for months paid off because now any little win by WCW feels like a big moment. So when DDP gets in there, hits that diamond cutter, and Eddie beats Norton, on the surface, it's like a nothing for NWO,
Right.
whatever. But because they've been so dominant, when this happens, it feels like a chip away. It feels like you're down 9, right? Joe
Yeah.
Torre used to always say famously when he was managing the Yankees, like small bite, small bite, small bite. So you're down 8 or 9. Well, get a run in this inning, get a run in that inning, and that's kind of where WCW is at right now. Like just chip away at the lead of the NWO, make
Mhm.
dents, and that's what they're doing with stuff like this. So sneaky good match. Norton shows off his power. Eddie was tough fighting through it. The snap offense from Norton looked great. As usual, Eddie, like you said, his selling and his feeding was so good, and the finisher DDP was great. So yeah, 3 stars for me. A really fun segment, and I'll take this over some of the stuff like the Harlem Heat squash or whatever that they try to use to get
Oh,
guys over.
yeah. Giant promo. You want to share your notes on that? And then I can chime in.
Yeah, it wasn't much. I mean, he issued his final warning to Hogan. Says Hogan has used him, but he's been smartened up. He's seen the light, and Hogan's future in wrestling is very dim after Sold Out. So that's pretty focused by Giant. You know, he's
Mhm.
been keeping it pretty simple since the turn. Just 100% focused on Hogan, not really paying lip service to WCW. He's really just there because he's pissed at Hogan using him in the NWO and keeping him at bay, and he wants the gold. So he's keeping it tight.
He literally lights a match and blows it out here. The background of this felt kind of Miami Vice-ish. Like he
Yeah,
has
yeah.
like there's like pink lights running through the background here. So
Hmm.
it was a different. It was interesting. I thought Giant was focused though. I thought this was good. I thought this was fine. I mean, it was what it was. Then Tony runs down this Sony contest, the Sony PlayStation contest, like where a bunch of people are coming in to battle. It almost felt like the Karate Fighters, but on Sony PlayStation. But there you go. That leads us to Benoit versus Sullivan. Falls Count Anywhere. You knew this. Again, that's my first note. Dusty says this is a domestic dispute. So there we go. He's all fired up for that. Sullivan bells right away and
Oh,
says,
well,
"Hey,
one quick thing about hang on, sorry, I missed this. Promotion consideration again was
oh,
Chef Boyardee and Slim Jim, but now Hot Pockets. Are you a Hot
mm,
Pockets fan?
no."
Okay, me neither. How about Lean Pockets?
Mm,
Okay. But Tony then talks about the PlayStation Toe Ball
yeah,
1 Tournament of Champions. Did
yeah.
you not mark down all the winners though?
Do what now?
The winners, the names of the winners.
I did not.
Okay, I did. Do you want to go over them?
Oh, let's.
I painstakingly paused and wrote all of them down. So the finalists are going to Super Brawl weekend. Here we go. Jim Simpson from Lake City, Tennessee. Matt McDonald from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Heath Phillips from Ogden, Vermont. Donald William Byrd of Harrisburg, North Carolina. Duke Park from Warrington, Oregon. Rick Rice Jr. from Glendale, Arizona. Mona Little from East Liverpool, Ohio. Jeff Spindler from Anaheim, California. Austin Briner from Milledgeville, Georgia. And Clayton Caldwell from Bryan, Arkansas.
There
I
we
wanted to
go.
give them a shout because they may have never been named on TV again since that night on the Clash show. If any of them are watching, they get a second shout out here on the Wrestling
If
Warzone.
you know, yeah, it'll be like when you had the May family on or whatever from
The
King of
males,
the
yeah.
Ring. Male, yeah, male family.
R.I.P. Wes. Did you ever play toe ball? I can't say I have, but
No, so
yeah. Well, there you go. There's the winners of the toe ball tournament of champions go to San Fran.
yeah, I would have had my PlayStation at this point because I got that Christmas '96.
Oh wow, you were early on the PlayStation.
Yeah, I don't. PlayStation's weird because it was we moved to Alabama in '96, and I think I've mentioned this. Like I didn't have a Super Nintendo. Like I went
Mhm.
straight from Nintendo to
That's
PlayStation
a
as
big
far as
jump.
consoles, and I don't know like how my mom like she's usually not very hip on like the cool item.
That's early. That must have been right
Yeah,
around when it came
I
out.
think it was a year after it came out because it wasn't 90. Was it 96 or 97? Nintendo 64. Because I think the next year I got Nintendo 64. That was Christmas 97.
See, PlayStation 1 came out, God, December 3rd, 94 was PlayStation?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And maybe that's in Japan. I don't. That seems like super early.
It seems I would have guessed 95 though.
Yeah.
Because I knew like I got Crash Bandicoot like right there. And then I think I got maybe like I want to say Game Day 96. If I remember correctly, the one with Jamal Bettis on the cover.
Jerome Bettis.
Yeah, Jerome Bettis. Yeah.
The Nintendo 64 was September 29th, 96. So even
Okay.
that is crazy how that seems early. I didn't get my PlayStation until 99. uh,
Oh,
like I had Super Nintendo forever. And then I went to college. My roommate freshman year had PlayStation. I played the shit out of his to the point where he would like complain about it. It's like, all right, you got to break it. You're playing it too much. So then after freshman year, I basically told my mom, like, I need a PlayStation. I'm not going to survive the summer without it. I'm too hooked. So I got mine. And then I got PS2 when I graduated college as a graduation gift.
yeah, I never had a PS2. I only had Xbox. I became an Xbox guy.
I think I've had every PlayStation. I definitely
Yeah,
had the 2. I definitely had the 3. Yeah, I had the 4 and the 5. Yeah, I've had them all.
PS5 was my first one since PlayStation 1 because I did Xbox 360, and then skipped a generation, and then
I look forward to my tradition of buying Madden, playing 5 games, and then getting the next one next year at this point.
yeah,
That's where my
yeah.
life's at.
But there we go. But yeah, so I had the PlayStation, but was only doing Crash Bandicoot. So there you go. So now, yeah, the fight starts right away. They brawl to the outside, into the crowd they go. We talked about the chaos
Mhm.
last night or on Nitro, how they couldn't keep the crowd control. So they brought in some reserves for this one. Bobby Eaton is out there,
Mhm.
tried to corral the crowd. Into the bathroom they go.
It looks like an elementary school bathroom.
Yeah, I think they canvassed the bathroom too.
Yeah.
So
Well, they
there's
go in
no
the
one in
women's
there.
room, so yeah, I mean.
Yeah, there's no one in there.
Oh no, it's the men's room. But Dusty says he's excited for women to get to see what urinals
Yeah,
look
can
like.
see because this had like the
Yeah,
long
that's
urinal.
right. Yeah. He says,
Um,
"Oh, women can finally see what urinals look like."
yeah, this had a stack of them, like the real long urinals. Which another quick detour. Have we ever talked about like at my high school in the football field around this time, we still had essentially like the trough
Oh God,
where it was just the wide whatever where
the
everybody
bucket.
was. Yeah, it was essentially like a long bucket that everybody was going into. It was very primitive.
I can't believe they ever did that. And like public
I mean, yeah, this
fields
was
and
a public place,
stadiums had
so yeah,
troughs.
yeah. I mean, I was a 10-year-old whizzing in front of all these adults and everything else. It's a little
The
weird.
circle troughs are even worse. The one, the fucking like that, because now you're looking at at least the regular trough. You're like kind of not really. You can kind of not look. The circle ones, like you're looking at the person across from you, basically.
I distinctly remember the one at the old high school it was in the middle. Like
Oh my God, that's even worse.
you could be like crossing swords if you were hitting it at the right spot. Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty wild. Anyway, so this brawl, they're fighting. Benoit goes hard into the towel dispenser. Benoit throws the trash can. It hits Jimmy Hart. Then Sullivan gets thrown into the towel dispenser. It actually gets ripped out
That's a nasty
of
spot
the
too.
wall.
That he
Yeah.
crushes Benoit with that.
A very humorous moment where Randy Anderson like steps into the urinal and slips, and
Dusty's dying.
I know
Dusty
he
is
had to
dying.
like it was like quicksand, like he
Yeah.
was just like frozen in it. Um, oh god, a clothesline from Sullivan gets a 2 count on the bathroom floor, which Dusty, was losing his mind over. Of course, like, can you believe it? Benoit gets sent into the heater. Back outside they go, and it's complete mayhem again. Like the cameraman can't keep up. Woman doesn't go into the crowd
Mm.
this time, so she learned her lesson last time, where she, on Nitro had to take off her shoes and was screaming, trying to get towards them. Benoit takes a nasty bump down the steps,
Mhm.
just like that's happened every time they fought, but
Yeah.
this one was really sick. Dillinger comes back down and he got drenched with beer or something. Like he's wearing like a yellow shirt that's just like full of liquids. Back into the ringside they go. Tree of Woe from Sullivan, double stomp onto the stomach. Hart calls for the megaphone, but the him and Randy Anderson are kind of wrestling over it, and Sullivan's distracted. That allows a woman to get in with the wooden chair. She whacks Sullivan with it. It doesn't break, but Sullivan's incapacitated because of that, and Benoit pins him for the victory. And then Benoit ends up getting the chair and absolutely demolishes Sullivan with it. It goes into a million pieces to end it. So, I mean, it is what it is with these
Yeah.
two. Like
Rinse repeat, but it works.
it's still chaotic feeling. It's still unlike anything we're seeing really on WCW or WWF programming at the time. So it still feels cutting edge and personal. And I mean, it was. So it's not much of a work there, but entertaining as far as a standalone brawl. So I went 3 1/4.
I think Jimmy slid the chair into that woman uses, so that backfires. Like as
Mm,
they're arguing.
I see.
Dusty says Jimmy sounds like a Yamanchi as they're brawling. That's one of his go-tos. He used to say that about women too. She's yelling like a Yamanchi out there. But yeah, this is. I mean, there's nothing else to say. It's right on brand. Usual insane brawl. These guys are maniacs. You think at some point it'll get old, but it really hasn't. Like it still kind of hits.
Mhm.
Dusty had so much. Like that was one thing we missed on Nitro was him being a fucking nut during the match.
Yeah.
That adds a lot to it because he's so into it and so won over by it. Woman helps Benoit win. You would think this would be it. It felt like a blow off the way they do it, but as we know, it's going to rage on for a while still. The Horsemen again seem united on this night. They pick up a big win, so I went 3 stars. Usual.
Nice. Come back. We get the ad for that other where the big boys play WCW shirt. Doug and Shillett ad. It's 1995.
But this is $6 shipping and handling. So we've had $20 shirt with $5 shipping and handling, a $22 shirt with $6 shipping and handling, and now a $20 shirt with $6. So the prices are different on every single shirt in one way or another. Like, why are they using the same fucking place?
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of wild. That's got to be a nightmare to keep up with accounting wise for
Right? Why is this
royalties
an
and
extra
stuff.
dollar? Unless these are old ads and like maybe that's the only thing I can think of is that they changed the pricing
That's
on some stuff.
possible too.
Yeah, they're just airing old ads. It's odd. I mean,
We
you could
ain't
change the
seen the,
slate though.
we ain't seen the WCW magazine in a while.
Yeah, no, maybe we're done with that.
That's sad. It's the Amazing French Canadians versus the Steiner Brothers. The anthem gets cut off with the Steiner line. The outsiders are backstage and they clown on the Steiners over the house mic.
Yeah.
Um, Scott kind of has his new look here, so this is a debut of his black. I don't know.
It's like leather.
BDSM get up here. Yeah, his new get up. So Big Bro to start. They take a break when the Steiners come off the top and the Amazing French Canadians bail the outside. Dusty was losing his mind that they were about to go to break before the Steiners fly off the top rope. When we come back, the Amazing French Canadians are double teaming. We're told they kind of took over during the break, got a game plan, and gained the advantage over Rick. But Rick pretty quickly ducks and clotheslines both Amazing French Canadians. Scott gets the hot tag, big back body drop on Carl Ouellette, power slam to Jock as he's thrown onto Carl Ouellette. Then they get a belly to belly. The flag shot from Jacques Rougeau is missed. Doomsday DDT from the top rope onto Ouellette, and that gets the Steiner Brothers a win. So, I mean, this broken record. This is kind of our third like showcase enhancer type match. Again, I thought this one was pretty entertaining with the Steiner Brothers doing their two big double team power moves. This one was a little interesting though because I mean these guys like a few years earlier had some great matches in WWF. It was a little alarming that it shows how far off the Amazing French Canadians came in a
And
short
same with
time.
I think the Steiners too. Like they've just changed. Like Scott is not nearly as athletic, right? He's still good in the ring, but it's different style now. It's more straight power versus kind of the hybrid he used to do. So I think that's part of it. I mean, he's definitely rusty, but yeah, the Canadians have greatly fallen off.
Yeah.
Um, I'll stand by my stance that they should be in the WWF right now. Like I think there's such a lack of depth in the WWF and the tag division. There's so many other teams in WCW. They're not blending with the style here, whereas I think they could have been a benefit to the WWF in '96 for sure. So, and they had some name value still. You could have had Jean-Pierre Lafitte be Jean-Pierre Lafitte with Jacques, like if you wanted to do a hybrid because he was still, he had some good stuff as the Pirate, right? So you could have like,
Yeah, I mean, he's
yeah,
like a little over a year from having that really good match with Brett, and that was
right.
Brett, but it's crazy. Like they feel so old
And he's
and
still
so
going today.
dated. Yeah, it's nuts.
I think it's the gimmick. I think like WCW is this is why I think they'd be better in WWF with the shtick. Like WCW is just kind of past this like singing the Canadian national anthem.
Mhm,
Parker feels like kind of dated. Like
mhm,
they feel old in a promotion that's really like kind of light years ahead of where everything else is at. Like I
mhm.
just think they would have been better foils, so like the Smoking Guns and whoever else in the WWF at this point. Like they could have been there. Um, What'd you have for a grade?
2.25.
Yeah, I had a 2. I mean, I'm okay with this as a showcase because the Steiners need to be showcased, right? It's their first match back. You want to have them have a match before sold out. I like the idea that they're back though because we finally have a team that could maybe give the Outsiders a run. Like they haven't really, besides Sting and Luger, and the Face of Fear had a fun match with them, but like they haven't had a true like bellwether team that could give them a run for the belts since they've been dominant on top. So this will be a chance to see can they outlast the Steiners. I like them being on the house mic, crapping on the Steiners. Scott's hair was a disaster in this match. Like it's just really chaotic. Tony says, "Oh, DDP was a low-level human, but now he's taken a stand that they respect." So it's quite the dig. Rick and Scott also don't match. Like Scott's got the black leather, but Rick's still got the colorful stuff.
Yeah.
No Stinger Savage. Tony notes that like they're not here. What's going on? So typical TV tags and brawling. The finish was fine. Just shows that Scott's healthy. He's juiced out of his fucking mind, and they're ready for the pay-per-view. Just some classic 1993 Raw action here. 2 stars.
Right to our main event.
Mhm.
Right.
Yep.
Lex Luger versus Scott Hall.
Pretty big match.
Six and Nash are out with Hall. Again, they run down the shield of the upcoming dates, including that Nitro, the Omni. Tony gives a happy birthday to Brian Hildebrand, who turns 35 today. Big fan of WCW for a long time.
That was funny.
And wouldn't you know who the referee is in this match? It's Mark Curtis. So good power stuff by Luger to start. On the outside, Luger takes out 6, but gets hit by Nash. Some more cheap shots with 6. Hall covers with his feet on the ropes. I thought they did a good job in the early going of this match, showing the like NWO numbers game, how like Luger's doing his best to thwart off all the attacks, but there's just too many. It's coming too hot and heavy. Hall works Luger over. Good heat from the crowd, of course. Be expected of these two. Luger trips up Hall, crotches him on the post. Luger then does a springboard drop kick inside the ring, which was odd as hell, but I thought was really cool. I don't know if he's ever done that again. Bobby even mentions it. Like, I've never seen him do that before. It was very odd. Atomic drop from Luger, big sell by Hall. Then he gives 3 inverted atomic drops. Power slam, he calls for the rack. That brings in the troops. Nash and 6 hop up on the apron, get beat up. Nice power slam of 6 onto Nash. The torture rack is applied, but Nash is able to recover, get back into the ring. Luger gives a forearm smash to Nash. Luger then starts beating up Hall in the corner. He's kind of in between both of them. He goes back to Nash, and the numbers game catches up to him. Hall attacks. 6 comes in. We get the bell called finally for the DQ here. So pretty cheap finish. But then we get the finishing run where Nash gives Luger the big boot. Here comes the Steiners for backup. Dusty's all fired up for this, says he feels a rumble coming. Big Pier 6 brawl here. Scott and Nash are paired off on the outside. Scott sends Nash into the railing on the outside. And then essentially we get our finish where the NWO retreats and WCW is kind of standing tall to end the night. As a main event match, like as far as a TV match, I enjoyed this a lot. Like I thought Luger looked really good. I thought they did a good job of showing the numbers advantage again with the NWO. Nash was bumping like crazy. Like he's been very giving the last couple of weeks between the way he's bumped for Luger, the way he's bumped for Page. So he's been in a giving mood in that regard, and Scott Steiner too. So we'll see if that keeps up. 6 is always good to go flying off of somebody interfering. And overall, I thought this was a very productive, enjoyable main event. 3 stars for me.
Luger just looks amazing. Like he's shredded on the roll of a lifetime. Funny moment, the pyro goes off and Dusty freaks out. He thinks he's on fire. Like he's having a night. The crowd buzz is big. Like I said, this is a big match. Like Hall hasn't had many singles matches and just one actually, right? This I think it may be
his first match on Nitro was the night before. So
this
this was his second
fresh
TV match.
I thought Luger looked awesome fighting off the NWO. Like he was crushing them. Like he wasn't just like, it was what a rally when he gets the power slam, goes to the rack, fights off Nash, fights off 6. Like he just looks amazing out there the whole time. I like the Steiners immediately getting involved. Like Scott's back. They won a match. Now they're going to stand with Luger, right? Luger's been on his own for a while now. Now he's got the Steiners in his corner. Giant, we'll see. Like maybe he'll get involved too. But for right now, Luger's finally got some backup. A little WF 93 as well here with Luger and the Steiners teaming up, take on the foreign invaders. But so that was cool. But a pretty solid main event. I mean, energy and bombs. The crowd was engaged. It's good to see Hall just working in the ring. Like he's so good. Luger is the top dog. I mean, he's used great. We get the expected NWO interference, but we almost got the clean rack win. I mean, you can extrapolate to yourself and say Luger had him beat. So it's a win for Luger in many ways that he had Hall for the count until Six and Nash got involved. But plenty of spotlight, some good matches and quick matches on the evening. No Savage and Sting to me was interesting as well. Not even at the end. I thought maybe they'd pop up in the rafters, like standing up in the rafters.
Yeah.
So in 2 3/4, so not far off from you. Very good main event, TV main event.
All right, and that ends our show. So
That's it.
2 hours of action, and we're done.
All right, let's do some awards then. Match of the night, I had Dragon Malenko.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a weird one for me because it's like, I don't know, it may actually be my third favorite match, like just favorite,
right.
But yeah,
star-wise, yeah.
Yeah.
For a moment, I know the end was good. I ended up with the Horseman interview. Like, I know the Benoit stuff was kind of chilling, but it was cool to see them put them back on track and reunite. The crowd was into it. I like when Benoit and Mongo like kind of get to shine a little bit as well in here. So but the Luger brawl at the end is up there too.
Okay, I did Paige's Diamond Cutter.
Yeah, that was great too. All right, MVP. I had Malenko, but I don't know. I'm debating now Luger or Page as well. Who did you have?
I went Luger.
Yeah, I'm gonna change mine to Luger. I thought recapping that main event again, how awesome he looks.
Yeah.
No shots fired.
No.
We've had less with no Bischoff. I mean, that's been one of the big changes on the WCW side. I mean, it's been less overall. We've actually had more on Raw.
No Bischoff on this show too, which should be mentioned.
No Hogan, no Bischoff, no Savage, no Sting. Only Hall and Nash at the end. Too.
Yeah,
no Vincent. And Hall and Nash were just at the tail end. They weren't.
Yeah.
They weren't.
And
really
then Giant did the promo, but
that was it.
Like perform, on. So I mean, star power wise, like we have, like to this crowd, like you have Nash out there, and you have Hall wrestling and Luger, but besides them three, like it's a pretty lackluster. We talked about that because like how they stacked up other shows.
Yeah,
like this crowd didn't get Savage, Sting, Giant, Hogan, or Flair in front of them, or Piper. So that's 6 guys that are kind of in the mix right now.
Yeah, I mean Luger and Hall are pretty much their biggest that they got. So and Nash.
Yep. So they missed more than half of the big boys.
I think I like the Giant piece of it though, like not coming out because he's focused on Hogan.
Yep.
Hogan's not there. He's not involved, right? He's not part of this war right now. He's only focused on taking out Hogan. He's going to get involved,
and he said too, like in his promos, he's not like Mr. WCW either. And him and Luger have the history, so yeah, it's good.
All right, so no shots fired, no debuts, right? I think all those Lucha guys have been on before.
No, I had to look up Parka, but he had one match in November. I was like, have we seen him? But
Road Report was Des Moines. No Japanese. Did Chono use the Japanese music?
I think
he used the NWO music.
Yeah, Chono used the NWO music. Ultimo used his usual theme. So I think we're clear.
So final grade, I went 7 out of 10. I mean, I think it was a very good Clash. Like I enjoyed the 2 hours. Had a lot of pretty good matches. We showcased. I mean, we're lacking the big boys, but I still think this was, effective enough to get you hyped or sold out at some points. I think it could have been better. I think what carried it really is those in ring of like the Benoit match, the Malenko match, the main event really carried the show. The return of the Steiners was well done. Dusty was awesome. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. I do think, again, this should have been a different week, though. I think it was just too much overload in this week. And it almost feels like they were overwhelmed a bit. So I think putting this Clash as a bridge, because you have Raw Thursday coming up, too. So, like, it could have been good if they did it that week or something. Like, do it the dog show week to really double down on WCW solo action. I think it would have been better as a bridge to Super Brawl than jammed in this go home to sold out.
Yeah, there's a weird thing. I wonder if, like, For some reason, TBS didn't want this during the February sweeps, but
Maybe.
yeah, it sucks.
Sold Out also isn't like a typical pay-per-view, so the build isn't going to be normal. So it's like
No,
they didn't really build to that weird show that well here with such a little NWO presence on this program. It's like we're building to an NWO pay-per-view, and like you said, half the big guys aren't even
yeah,
around. Um, but this was the format, so maybe they just had it pegged for January because 95, 96 were with January, August. So
yeah,
maybe that's just what they're doing, you know.
yeah. I mean, I think in some ways, Sold Out may have screwed them more than
Well, yeah, 'cause I'm guessing that wasn't on the books originally, right? So, and they haven't had a January or an August pay per view
right.
until '96. They added Hog Wild, but yeah. So right, they added a January pay per view at the last minute, maybe, and that fucked with it more. And the Clash was probably already set.
Hmm. So yeah, I mean, I went 7 out of 10 too. Like, it's not, kind of how we talked about in the beginning of the show. Like, it's not one you really remember. It's not one I'd say you need to run out immediately and rewatch. But if you throw it on, it's a very enjoyable hour and a half, is what it runs on the network. So I
Yeah, if
thought
you're
it
looking
was
for some
good.
classic early '97 WCW, like it's a good way to go about it.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
thought it was good. Good show. Nothing atrocious, nothing outstanding, just good.
All right. Well, we'll be back in 2 weeks. We're going to continue our run of WCW. We have Sold Out '97, so it'll be an interesting
Mhm.
one to relive
Yeah.
and to go through. So looking forward to that. And then a month from today, we'll be back on Monday with the Raw versus Nitro on the night after, or 2 nights after Sold Out, I guess.
Right.
And we're really marching towards some uncharted waters for WEF as well, like a lot of uncertainty coming in February and March for them. So that's welcome after very stale 1996. Check
Yes.
out everything in the North South Connection. We have a ton of content every day. A lot of stuff on our YouTube channel that's exclusive to video. So just subscribe and be sure to check everything out. You don't want to miss it. A lot of it's evergreen, so you can kind of come back to it, right? It's not a lot of timely stuff you need to dive into. We do have some, but be sure to check that out. Subscribe, follow us on social media. Until then, smell the napalm. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks on the War Zone.